You had them sign a non-compete. You think that you're protected, but most of those contracts, they ain't worth the paper they're printed on.
The non-compete was intended so long as there was like a reasonable geographic scope.
Isn't it like 11 miles or something? I hate non-competes. I think it's awful to put an employee or a contractor in jail because they're not working with you.
The idea was you want to restrain these people from leaving your business to work for a competitor. That employee cannot immediately go to a competitor and solicit the customers. The problem with that is like just how to do your job isn't really a trade secret anymore. And that's what the FTC was getting at. For instance, there's a non-compete, there's a non-solicit.
Right. So let's talk about that. You had them sign a non-compete. You think that you're protected, but here is the ugly truth. Most of those contracts, they ain't worth the paper they're printed on. In today's episode, Ryan and I are breaking down the legal illusion of the non-compete clause. With the FTC proposing a near total ban and courts throwing them out left and right, you need to know when a non-compete actually holds weight and when you're just wasting ink. Ryan and I will explain the only time a non-compete really works is during a buyout or exit, and even then, it's not a guarantee. Do you want to dive right in? Let's just hit it.
FTC comes out with a rule banning all non-competes. Bunch of litigation.
When did that happen?
April 2024, banning all non-competes.
Okay.
Trade press was like, how are you even doing this? Bunch of litigation ensues.
Yeah.
Rule gets set aside in about, I think it was August of 24. Mm-hmm. Everybody still is like, hey, this is great. Non-compete rule's been thrown out. I can put all those lovely non-competes back into my agreements. Not so. Reason, states have something to say about this. And really what the non-compete rule was all about was codifying a patchwork of state laws, basically saying from a policy perspective, we would like a free-flowing labor market. So we want everybody to be able to move around jobs. So just because they threw out the rule does not mean that you can magically put these back in your agreement and have them enforceable. But there's ways to get around it.
Okay.
Easiest way to do it, confidentiality and trade secrets law, including these provisions in your agreements with workers. Employees will have access to a ton of information, but that's company information, right?
Right.
Like if I give you access to my sales records or media strategies or whatever it is, they're not allowed to go and take that and then use it for a competitor.
I can't unlearn that though.
Yes. True. Like they're at a very high level, there's ways that like the how to do your job. Mm-hmm. That's not corporate information, right?
Well, I mean, sure. But let's say, okay, so for example, and by the way, let me prerequisite before you come for me in the comments. I hate non-competes. I think it's awful to put an employee or a contractor in jail because they're not working with you. I think that they're terrible. But I just want to give you a couple of caveats of why, as an employer, it might be advantageous for me to utilize the non-compete. Take Richard, for example. He runs all of our Facebook ads, right? He runs all of our PPC ads. If he goes to work for a direct competitor to me, he knows exactly how to run those ads to compete with me. That's not a trade secret. That's learned, and there's nothing I can do to stop it. But if he were to, then, God, I hope he does really well. But from most employers' standpoint, I can understand why they're like, you can't unlearn what I've taught you or the data that you've seen in your tenure with me, and you can really hurt me by going to my biggest competitor and bringing that experience and knowledge that I paid for to them. So
yeah, but see, I think there's a misunderstanding of what non-competes were like intended to cover.
Right. So let's talk about that.
So at a very, very basic level, like when we were in law school and you're learning about some of this stuff, non-competes were intended
5,000 years ago. You're getting old.
I know. I have white hair or gray hair. So the example that they used in law school was, say you are a dentist office.
Okay.
Right? And you come up with this new procedure, whatever it is.
Okay.
Right? Proprietary, you spend time and effort training these people who work at your dentist practice to figure out how to do this procedure, right? That dental hygienist or whatever.
Can't go to a new dentist office and tell them it's proprietary information.
Well, tell the proprietary information, but the non-compete was intended so long as there was like a reasonable like geographic scope, and so long as it was...
Isn't it like 11 miles or something?
It was like 2 miles. And
okay. Is it 2 miles?
It depends. Well, so like New York, think about it. Like New York City is much different than Idaho, right? So you might have a more smaller scope if you were in a metropolitan area because of how people move around. But the idea was, okay, you want to restrain these people from leaving one business, your business, to work for a competitor for a reasonable amount of time so that the business who put all this time and effort into this employee has an ability to basically compete and keep the business. And, that employee cannot immediately go to a competitor and, solicit the customers to kind of come over and then basically follow these employees. The problem with that is times change. And, just the run of the mill, like how I buy Facebook ads, like just how to do your job isn't really a trade secret anymore. It's not really that, it's not what non-competes were, intended to cover. Because think about it this way, like if you brought someone on as a junior employee and you brought them all the way to like almost senior management, they're like, screw it, I'm out of here. Like to keep that person from leaving and going to a new employer just because, I don't want them using, basically how their job for someone else. That's not fair. And that's what the FTC was getting at.
I completely agree. I don't like the idea of anyone, whether it be a spouse, whether it be an employee, whether it be a business partner, no one should have shackles on them where they feel like they have to stay. I would rather people stay because they want to stay. However, I do understand I'm going to pay to educate this person. They're going to know everything about my business, and then they can go to my direct competitor.
They can. They really can.
And they know where my clients are. So they have relationship with my clients.
So there's a difference. There's a non-compete, there's a non-solicit.
And this is where I want to jump into because a lot of people think that the non-compete, by it not being enforceable anymore. And I remember back in a day, I would get phone calls from people. It was like, hey, you just hired so-and-so. I'm going to sue you. I actually called you for the client in Arizona about it. And so times have changed, but there are ways to protect myself contractually that isn't a non-compete. So let's talk about that.
Hey everyone, interrupting this podcast to remind everybody to like and subscribe our podcast and to sign up for the Visionary Vault at
www.specialopspodcast.com for a whole bunch of freebies.
So non-solicits are one. For a certain amount of time, you will not solicit the people who work here. So your existing employees, you will not solicit clients that you've worked with.
There's a time limit on that I can have though, right? Like I can't just put forever.
Well, no, and that's where I'm going. I mean, not the non-solicitation provision. I mean, it is like a mini non-compete, and there are state laws on this. In some states, a majority of states, I would almost say, are moving away from this because it looks like a non-compete, right? Because if you were to leave your business and start up your own shop, and you can't talk to anyone, that's a problem. Like it's basically a non-compete without getting a non-compete. So non-solicitation provision is one way. I would say strongly disfavored, but it is one way. The other way is making sure you will not be able to stop that person from starting up a competing business.
Okay.
But what you can do is make sure that you have very strong confidentiality provisions in your agreement. You're going to need to police your IP and your trade secrets. Make sure that they're not taking stuff with them. And then if that person goes to another employer and then all of a sudden they are doing exactly, something that they say it's brand new. They're starting a new division, or the only way that they could have done that is by utilizing data, not just their know-how in industry, but some sort of data.
An email list, proprietary process, framework.
Exactly. Code is
a big one, a huge one.
Right? All of a sudden you will see this program working in a way that has never done that before, and it just coincidentally happens with the departure of a couple of employees. So to be honest, the best way to do it is you're going to have to be aggressive and you're going to have to police it. I mean, a lot of the letters are going to go out. It's like, hey, we know that you've gone over to this competitor, and these are the letters that you're sending to that competitor. It's like, we know that this employee is left. We know that they have access or had access to proprietary information. We are watching. You be on notice.
Really? You know before they did anything?
Totally. Absolutely. We've done this. But the problem with that is it's not a great solution because then you're in litigation. Because the only way to really enforce it is litigation.
It's litigation. And litigation is expensive.
No, it's very expensive.
And very difficult to prove.
Yeah. I mean, we had a case where it was companies that made these like little dishwasher pods. And it was like, who took this type of IP and went over here and made a competing product? And it's a problem. And so that was where we knew that they stole data. So we are going to go litigate it. And so the problem is litigation is never going to be a solution.
I love to say the words, I won't sue you.
Until I get the bill.
Until I get the bill, then I don't like saying it anymore. Then I call you and say, how do I get out of this, Ryan?
Well, no, everybody wants to be principal until they start getting the bill.
Right, the bills, it's tough, man. It's tough because you can pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in litigation and get your own stuff back. Just go out and be a better marketer, a better business, a better brand, and a better deliverer. I want to move on, though, to exits. because there's different rules around, and I'd like to understand it because I actually don't. If I'm exiting my business, if I sell you Shockwave and I exit and I have a non-compete, that holds a little bit more weight is my understanding, but not necessarily. So can you talk about that?
So kind of default position still holds true, but there's a difference when an owner leaves at this point, because we're not talking about low-level employees anymore.
Right.
We are talking about senior executives. I've exited. I've sold my business. I shouldn't be able to immediately go out and start a competing business and compete directly with you.
Because I understand everything, right?
So that will definitely hold more weight, but it does need to be limited in scope.
Okay.
Geography is not necessarily a big thing, at least in our industry, because it's global and geography won't be the big thing. It's what is exactly prohibited by that non-compete. Is it starting up in a competing business? Is it the same type of services? It needs to be very detailed about what they can and cannot do. And that is more likely to be enforceable. And I say likely because there's still a little bit of there is state law that has to be taken into account, but that is one way. So if you are exiting, there's at least a strong policy justification for, Emma can't sell her business and then immediately go out and
start a new one.
Yeah.
Start Tsunami Solutions.
Exactly. But then one thing we didn't say, use of IP, copyright, trademarks.
But step one, define IP ownership. So many people don't have their IP in their asset list, and that is wildly important.
We went through this with a client not too long ago. It was an exit, and trying to get a list of IP or the assets that the business owned was like pulling teeth. Our client was very, very helpful, but the other side wasn't.
Right.
And so when you're buying a business and you're buying assets, you need to be able to know exactly what you're buying.
Even with employees, right? So your IP consists of
anything and everything.
So give me some examples.
It is your copyrights. It is your trademark. Your
split test data, customer
Exactly.
lists, email lists.
Anything, almost anything and everything that's in that. Exactly.
Having a simple folder in your drive that says IP, when you started using it, how you've implemented it, where you've implemented it, what products you've implemented it for, your URLs, even like down to that.
And where that's important is to think about, running competing ads.
Right.
If that ad, if you have a copyright on parts of the images in that ad, right?
And if you've done it correctly, most ads are iterated so quickly.
Which they're not, but there are components of it that will likely have copyright content in it. Like if you are protecting it, and then that can, let's go back to the business owner example, that business owner is then basically making that something that's a facsimile of them. That's going to be an issue for them, and that'll give you some leverage.
I hope you found this helpful, impactful, because it is important to protect your IP, but you also can't put people in jail and not allow them to earn for their families. So how to do it the right way. If you're relying on a non-compete to protect your agency, offer, or client list, you're playing legal roulette. Ryan and I put together an ebook on non-compete and legal ways to protect yourself and your assets. You can get that by going to www.specialopspodcast.com and signing up for our Visionary Vault. We have tons of resources for free for you. Protect your exit, fortify your contracts, scale smart, and see you next time.
See you.